Welcome back. The Conservative Party of Canada released its costed election campaign platform today, less than a week before Election Day. The platform pledges $75 billion in tax cuts and $34 billion in new spending. It's the final of the big three parties to release a fully costed platform, coming on the heels of the Liberals and the NDP doing the same thing on the weekend, both with significant budgetary deficits foreseen. To give us some analysis, we've got Don Drummond. He's adjunct professor at Queen's University and a former chief economist at TD Bank. He joins us from Scottsdale, Arizona. Don, thank you very much for joining us. I've read an op-ed piece you've now written in which you take a look at all three of the costed platforms. You do say that the costed plans of the Liberals and Conservatives do have some encouraging ideas on the big picture story facing the Canadian economy, and that's reversing decades-long economic decline and stagnation. Why don't we begin there?
Yeah, sure. They've both got lots of ideas. They're not particularly bold and they're not particularly original. And in fact, if you read the newsletters of various associations and academics in Canada, there's pretty much a consensus of certain things we need to do. Obviously, eliminating internal trade barriers, speed the analysis period for major projects, trying to get more infrastructure to the ports, east-west, that sort of thing. Both of them have that, reduced regulation. Whether they're looking at billions of dollars of business subsidies to better target or eliminate a bunch of them, neither one of them venture into that. Neither one of them propose reducing the corporate income tax rate, which at the C.D. Howe, when we did our Shadja budget, we think that's essential. Neither of them, including the NDP, doesn't have any initiatives to increase growth. None of them are improving the incentives for business to continue to grow. So pretty conventional and pretty minor, I think, relative to the depth of the problem and what could have been done.
Talk to us about corporate subsidies. We hear that expression in general terms very often. How fiscally significant are corporate subsidies? Well, one would think that that's fairly low-hanging fruit in terms of public acceptance. A party is not going to get a lot of pushback from pledging to reduce corporate subsidies.
Well, we like to look at them, both the direct subsidies, but also the kind of the hidden part, all the tax preferences. The tax preferences are just as big. So there's billions and billions of dollars there. And we've made an effort to analyze how much of them are really required to deal with some kind of market failure, and how much of them are just purely a transfer, a subsidy that aren't getting economic impact. And a lot are just in that latter category, and I think they should be either sharpened or many of them could be reduced. I think you could easily take over $1 billion, $2 billion easily per year out of them and not have any negative effect on economic growth. They don't propose anything. In fact, I think the most amazing thing, if you try to compare the rhetoric we've listened to over the last number of weeks with the actual numbers, is none of the parties plan to do much about government spending. In that baseline that they all work off, it's $550 billion, excluding interest on public debt, by 2029. And they just propose to take a little bit over $10 billion of that out. The Liberals for some non-specified program, and the Conservatives out of one item only, contracting. All the rest of it, all the money the government spends on all the things, a lot of it inefficient, a lot of it ineffective. They don't even plan, neither one of them plans to touch it.
How important, in your mind, is a cut to corporate income taxes? We are now higher than the U.S. in our corporate tax rates. Is that correct?
Well, the key is just exactly as you put it. We had a very uncompetitive corporate tax system through the 1990s, and beginning with the budget of 2000, the Canadian successive governments started to deal with that. And for a while, we actually had a corporate tax advantage, but not just the United States, but other countries have responded to that, and we need to respond again. Everything else equal, as a small economy, we don't have the economies of scale and the attractiveness the United States does. We have to be more than just competitive. And of course, we have to reduce our reliance upon the United States. So our corporations have to be competitive globally, and we're not through the tax system. We've called for a 2 percentage point cut in the corporate income tax rate. Neither of the parties do that. The Liberals call for a review of the corporate income taxes, but they don't say what it's going to look like, what its objectives are going to be, and they don't give any indication of the timeline for it.
I just spoke to a very senior scientist at the University of Toronto, and he, as you can imagine, is very critical at the level of research and development financing for science in this country. He says we lag significantly behind other G7 economies in our support for science. Any comment there?
Well, not just in science, our whole research and development effort is pathetic in Canada. We just a fraction relative to our GDP per capita that other countries do. Our business investment is woefully inadequate relative to the United States and many other developed countries. We have a golden opportunity in Canada with the malaise settling over the United States. There's a lot of academics and scientists that are disenfranchised from the U.S. administration. The United States has basically closed the growth to this whole burgeoning clean growth phenomenon that is going to continue around the rest of the world. The U.S. could and should be a leader of that. They've decided to turn away from that. Canada has some golden opportunities, and that kind of brings me to the immigration. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives are mesmerized by talking about the numbers, but they don't propose very much for sharpening the selection processes and the integration process. They both refer to better processes for recognizing credentials, but they don't seem to realize we have a golden opportunity in Canada to bring the brightest and the best from around the world, especially the United States, and have economic gains from that.
Don, we'll have to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Don Drummond is an adjunct professor at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. He's also a former chief economist at Toronto Dominion Bank. He joined us from Scottsdale, Arizona.